All right, let's get more reaction to that election win. Joining us on the panel is National Senator Matt Canavan. Thank you for your time. You marked the occasion with McDonald's.
Yes, I thought it was apt and appropriate. I actually had my...
He really eats McDonald's?
Well, apparently he serves it on Trump Force One. That's what I hear from people that get served regularly.
He got asked. He said all of it. That just sounds to me like I don't know.
Maybe he's having one of everything.
My first job was at McDonald's, so I loved seeing him there. I didn't serve the fries. I just flipped the burgers, and I certainly wasn't allowed to wrap any burgers. I'm terrible at wrapping things still to this day.
I worked at Hungry Jack's, so we must be rivals. So from this election, are you sort of cautious of trying to transfer too much of it? I mean, the biggest factor on numbers, people didn't turn out for Kamala Harris. We've got compulsory attendance to vote.
Yeah. Look, I think you're right, Tom, that it's not simple just to say because of that this will happen. I think what it does talk to, though, is there is a great sense of disillusionment out there among people. And I think that's pretty common across almost all countries right now, especially in the Western world. That's the result of skyrocketing prices, crashing real wages. We've got all those factors here. In fact, we've had a bigger reduction in real wages in this country than almost any other developed country in the world. So there's a lot of discontent out there, and they don't see governments responding to those practical problems. That obviously makes any incumbent government vulnerable. But look, there'll still be the challenge for us to come up to the mark. We've got to make sure we've got a set of policies that can deliver on those outcomes. I think the election result, basically the message for Liberal and National parties is opportunity knocks. There's an opportunity to knock there. We've just got to make sure we walk through the door, open the door and walk through it.
Opportunity knocks. You look at those incumbents around the world, and I think we can include the US in that now, in New Zealand, in the UK, where there have been these elections consecutively where the incumbents have been punished. Is that the issue? Is that the tip of the spear next year? I mean, there were a number of issues in the US. You can look at abortion and the border and national security, foreign affairs, but is the tip of the spear whether people are better off now than they were 3 or 4 years ago?
I think it always is. You'd add the Queensland government in there as well, so there are some local examples. I think it's pretty much always been the case that when you look at right track, wrong track, or is the country in the right direction, approval ratings, they're all very indicative then of if the incumbent government's going to do well. Obviously, the current government's not doing well on those measures. I think they've been underwhelming. They haven't met their promises. They didn't reduce electricity bills by $275 like they said they would. As I said, they presided over perhaps the biggest reduction in real wages in Australia's history, biggest in recorded history, and they've totally lost control of our border. They had one job after COVID, is to reopen our border, manage it properly, and they've let in 500,000 people a year, and now Australians living in tents. On almost any measure of economic performance, this government has been a dud. And as I say, that gives us the opportunity of providing an alternative, filling that space. And given what we've seen around the world, there's every chance we could win next year.
What's your view on Kevin Rudd's position as ambassador now? Should you actually just give him time to see if he can make this work? We're already seeing some of your colleagues say it's time to go.
Well, I don't want to see the Australian ambassador chosen by foreigners. So I'd much prefer Kevin to stay there. Now, obviously, he's got to develop a working relationship, and the comments Kevin's made aren't ideal. They do provide some hurdles to establishing that working relationship, but he's a pretty skilled diplomat.
Master of range.
Look, I think he can do it. As I say, I back the Australian. I mean, he's a different political colour than me, but I'm not going to score political points about that. I want to see Kevin succeed, like Joe Hockey clearly succeeded with the previous Trump administration. If it does become unworkable, obviously we'll have to think about it then, but I don't think we should have any panicked knee-jerk reaction.
Would you counsel some of your colleagues that, backgrounding information, or this is what Penny Wong said in the past, have a look at these old comments from Albo? Aren't we actually undermining?
Have they? Have they been doing that? I don't know. I haven't done that. They haven't done that to me. They've been doing it to you, obviously. I don't know.
But my point is, shouldn't we actually be bipartisan on this? Is it really in anyone's interest to go, oh, hey, Donald Trump, have a look at this terrible comment from someone on the other side? Aren't we above that?
I'm not going to comment on my colleagues, but look, that's my approach. I think absolutely we've got our country's interest to think of. I've said previously too, like if the Labor Party or Kevin wants any help, I know people in that circle around there, many of us do, more than happy to try and help make sure we put our country's interests first. We've got a big job to do in Washington, obviously.
What do you think about Donald Trump on the world stage? You think about Ukraine. We support Ukraine very strongly. Some of the Republicans not so well, some want their support to end.
Yeah.
I think about Taiwan, China.
Yeah.
What's your overall view about Trump on the world stage? Because I know he's got his critics and so on.
Yeah.
But his unpredictability did make ground last time, like in the Middle East.
Yeah. Look, I personally supported Trump, or wanted to see Trump win, mainly because of this, mainly because I think he's the best hope to avoid World War III. Been very worried about the last few years. You can just see these now 3 major conflicts around the world, and I don't want to look back at that in 50 or 60 years' time and think this was the precursor to a major war. This was sort of the Spanish Civil War era of the 2020s. I do think Trump has a record of settling conflicts. When he first came in, people forget it now, but when he first became president, there was grave risks of some kind of conflict with North Korea. Sounds strange almost to think about that now. And yes, he was unconventional in some of the ways he communicated with Kim Jong-un, but they were effective. They were effective. He met with them. He settled that down. And as I say, no one even worries about that too much.
I think people are still worried about the North Korean nuclear build-up.
Nothing like it was 10 years ago. And it's become a little bit of an issue again now because of the Ukraine and Russia. We forced Russia into China's hands. It hasn't been managed well. So look, there definitely needs to be a changed approach. Whatever has been happening the last few years is not working. I do think there is an opportunity.
There's to Trump too, though. That instability is not just in one way. That there is a chance if he just gets annoyed, he just goes.
Well, I think the issue that maybe we don't commentate enough here in this country is that I worry that there is part of the US administration, not all of it, but there's a part of it that is not disincentivised to avoid war. I mean, there's a lot of people in the US that make a lot of money out of war, and when Afghanistan ended, their money dried up. And I think Trump's a great bulwark against that because he doesn't cop that rubbish. He sees for what is. He comments on that quite often, publicly comments on it. And we don't see it as much because I don't think it's an issue here in our country. And obviously we want to support America. And they're a great ally and friend. But I think I do want somebody there in Washington, D.C. that's not just taking their marching orders from those elements of America who profit from war.
Where does AUKUS fit into that? Is AUKUS under threat in that characterisation you give?
No, I don't think it is at all. I mean, Trump's been by all indications a good supporter of it. I don't think he's commented on it too much. Obviously, he's had other issues to deal with.
If he doesn't see it if he does not see it as such a priority that perhaps the Biden administration has.
Well, I think we've also just got to be a little realistic on our position. I mean, we're not front and centre of a new president's mind, but that's a good thing too, right? The new president will be dealing with issues like Ukraine, like Taiwan, like the Middle East. We're pretty safe and prosperous here, so let's be thankful for that. I'm sure our relationship, though, will continue.
All right. Sounds like you're sort of ready to have an open mind as to what happens because, like many of us, who knows, right?
Absolutely. We don't know. It's a world of great risk and uncertainty.
Matt Canavan, thank you.